Welcome to the Progress Texas Happy Hour.
Welcome to the Progress Texas Happy Hour. I'm Executive Director Kathleen Thompson. The first day of early voting for the Texas primary runoff election is Monday, May 18th, and early voting continues for just 5 days, wrapping up on Friday, May 22nd. It all ramps up to Election Day, Tuesday, May 26th. For Democrats, there are several crucial races that deserve your attention. Statewide elections, including Texas's Lieutenant Governor and Attorney General, and many others at the legislative and county level, including a very important race in Texas's most densely populated county for Harris County Judge. It's okay to be a new voter if you're new to Texas, or if you haven't voted your whole ballot before. Let's change that. The county judge is the county executive and not a member of the judicial branch. Not every organization offers endorsements during election season, but at Progress Texas, when our board of directors identifies exemplary credentials and capability among candidates who share our bold progressive values, we amplify those who should win. Progress Texas's board endorses Dr. Letitia Plummer, former Houston City Council member and longtime champion for Harris County Judge. Dr. Plummer, welcome back to the pod.
Thank you so much, Kathleen. It's so good to be here.
This is actually our first one-on-one convo with you. We had you on last fall as part of a live podcast we recorded in Austin with our friends at Asian Texas for Justice, where you were a featured guest alongside Texas House Minority Leader Jean Wu. Listeners, we're going to put a link to that talk in our show notes. It was a great one. Dr. Plummer, for folks who haven't heard that talk yet, and our listeners outside of the Harris County area, would you please give us a quick rundown of your background and your career?
Yes, absolutely. So first of all, just thank you so much for the endorsement and the support, Kathleen. It means a lot to me. And so the reason why I was on that podcast with Jean Wu was because my mother is Yemeni and Persian. And so I do have Asian in me. My dad is African-American, and they actually met in East Africa when my dad was in the Peace Corps. And so I represent two really, in my opinion, really crucial cultures, the African-American and then also the Arab and the Indian. And so it makes it nice for me to be able to represent a community that is so incredibly diverse as Harris County. I served 2 terms as a city council member. I'm a dentist by trade, 25 years as a small business owner. And so I really believe because, the small business experience and the public service experience as a city council member at large, I bring a nice mix to this Harris County Judge race. And so I'm excited to be here. I'm a mom of 3 sons. I went to HBCUs for college. I'm a product of the public school system. And I'm just really excited to have this conversation with you.
Well, I hope you had a great Mother's Day. And I don't know why we moms get one day. It should be like a week, or if not a month, for all the hard work we do, loving and taking care of our families. So I hope you had a good one.
I did actually turn my phone off, which I never do. I went to Do Not Disturb the entire day, and it was so wonderful. And my youngest son is back from college, so it's always so good to have all my boys in town. So yes.
Lovely to hear. Dr. Plummer, it's no small job that you're asking for. Harris County, if it were its own state, would be bigger in population and economic impact than more than half of the 50 United States, and it would similarly rival many countries in the world. Tell us about the responsibilities of the Harris County Judge and why you're the best pick for that office.
Absolutely. So I served as a council member at large, which means that I served the entire city of Houston, which is close to 3 million people. And so Harris County is really moving up to 5 million people, with 2 million of them living in the unincorporated Harris County area. And so I believe I've already represented about half or more than half of what the population base is for the county, just being an at-large member. The main role and responsibility as the county judge is really resiliency, preparedness, and disaster recovery. And I'm all about disasters in terms of my job. And so when we see something stirring up, in the Gulf, or when we know some type of ice storm or whatever is happening within this particular region, that is when my work absolutely, starts. But I'll tell you, it begins though in the preparations pace of it. And I am the most current candidate in this race that served you currently. I've been through 6 natural disasters, the first pandemic, and hopefully the last pandemic we will ever
Yes,
see.
please.
Yes. And so from that perspective, I have current experience in this. I also served in a large member, which means that I didn't have any executive decision making power like the mayor would. And so it forced me to really work with the other, district members and the other at large members. In the same way, I'm going to have to work with my commissioner's court. And so, versus when you are a mayor, which is, my opponent, she previous mayor, she had executive order. So she made her decision. She created the agenda. It's very challenging to be able to come from that background and not know that you have to be able to work with others, on commissioner's court. We don't get a budget, very much like the at-large member. I don't get a budget that's allocated to me specifically, which means if I'm trying to write policies or get a project done, like the generator that we did at Cashmere Gardens, I have to convince my other council members to agree with me. And so that's one from the public policy space. I am definitely the best suited for that. But also as a small business owner, like I run payroll every 2 weeks. I have to pay rent. I'm a doctor, right? And so I see the challenges that we're seeing in healthcare with my patients because sometimes they can't get something done because insurance doesn't cover it, et cetera. And so I just bring this really good balance to being able to understand this role. And then finally, because I've been through those natural disasters, I am more aligned with the community activists that are on the ground that really show up within that first 72 hours. And unfortunately, no one else, in this race really can be able to, bring those relationships to the table to be able to execute in the way that we need to.
As opposed to many politicians who carry the title doctor, who might have a PhD, you're an actual doctor with your own dental practice, like you've mentioned, in the Houston area for more than 2 decades. Would you talk to us about how your experience as a healthcare provider uniquely prepares you for this county level management job? And I pay attention to Texas politics. I pay attention to county government that's not my own. I'm up here in Dallas County as we record. But at the time that the Ebola crisis happened, I didn't live in Dallas County, but I saw what Dallas County Judge Clay Jenkins was doing to respond to the crisis. And then I did move into Dallas after COVID. But similarly, I saw the different reactions from county level government that were just night and day differences to COVID, to emergency Winter Storm Uri. The difference in crisis management, I think, came from what you're saying from that preparation. Would you talk about that?
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to give you one just quick story. When COVID happened, I saw, I was getting emails flooded to our dental practices because we were not able to practice during COVID because obviously of our approximation with the mouth, right?
Right.
And so I started receiving these emails well before cities started shutting down or anything. We started getting our protocols, our emergency protocols of what we had to do. And so I went to council meeting with a mask on. And I remember the county attorney at the time, he came up to me, he's like, Councilman Plummer, take your mask off. And I was like, no, we are about to be in a pandemic. And he goes, it's bad optics. It's going to scare the public. I'm like, no, sir. We are about to be in the pandemic. I am a medical professional. Mm-hmm. I know based on what our dental guidelines are being sent to us and what we're hearing, we have got to protect ourselves. And I never took my mask off, Kathleen. So that just shows you that I was well informed before the pandemic happened. And I was, in my mind, more prepared to be able to know what we need to do to get out there. And so I quickly understood that people were not going to be able to go to multi-purpose centers. Folks were losing their jobs. Chefs and restaurants were shutting down. And so I immediately created an organization called Feed the Need. And so we rented, a good friend of mine owned a club. Obviously, it shut down. And so we were able to bring famous chefs to come in, and they cooked for our residents for like 6 weeks straight. It was pretty amazing. We fed over 6,000 people, and it was phenomenal. But On the ground, I could educate residents about the vaccine. I could talk to them about why the African American communities were so afraid because of the Tuskegee experiment. They just didn't understand. And so, because of my background, I was a trusted partner in those spaces because they knew I was a medical professional. And so when I explained to them that it was safe, when I explained to them that they have to do these things, especially if they're more medically compromised, no one else on council was able to have those conversations, nor were they really trusted. It was really politics bringing something in that there was unknown. And so that is one space that I really believe I led the charge in. I'm the one who recommended to Mayor Turner at the time that we need to have a COVID task force. We need to understand how is this going to affect our businesses because I was shut down. I did not know how I was going to stay open. We need to talk about small business ownership and how to create funding. We brought in micro lending on my advisement because I knew small businesses were going to need a push until the government figured out how to do that. I, was the first one to talk with the health department and make sure that the health department was supported in the way that they needed to, because they were out doing the vaccines. They needed shade. They needed to make sure they had fans. They needed food to eat. So I was able to advise the health department in making, and ensuring that our staffers, were doing what they needed to do. Me getting the vaccine on council, on television was huge because people knew that if I trusted the vaccine,
Right.
I had done my research as a medical professional, I could, execute that. And so, and the last piece I'll say, Kathleen, is that as a doctor, I can't tell you I'm going to fix your problem 2 years from now. I have to fix the problem. I don't have the opportunity of kind of kicking the can down the road, which means I have to, number one, listen to you. I have to bring other specialists in the conversation to kind of chime in and let me know their perspective or what we need to do. I need to educate the patient to let the patient know these are your options. If we do this, this will happen. If we don't do this, this will happen. They've got to buy into it. And then we have to do the job and heal the patient. I treat politics the exact same way. Patients are residents. My associates are stakeholders. It's the same conversation. I have to listen in the same way. And so I really do bring a special experience to this, to where I am the best suited for this job.
That's quite a level of accomplishment and expertise. I'm so glad you shared all that with our listeners, and they're going to be sharing this with their friends and family and coworkers and neighbors and ex-boyfriends and share it all around town, y'all. Let's get back to your background. You come from a long line of civil rights activists in the Houston area. Your grandfather, Matthew Wesley Plummer, was the son of a man who himself was born into slavery, later was one of the flight instructors who trained the Tuskegee Airmen, became the first Black investigator hired by the Harris County DA's office, founded the Houston Lawyers Association, stepped in to help defend Muhammad Ali during his legal fight against the Vietnam draft, was appointed by Texas Governor Mark White as a judge to the 133rd Civil District Court in the mid-'80s, one of the first Black judges so appointed, all while enduring all manner of racist persecution throughout his career. Will you please talk about what that legacy means to you as you continue your own work in civil advocacy and public policy and politics?
Yeah, I mean, it's so crazy. I've heard that resume 1,000 times.
Wow.
Right. And still to this day, every time I hear someone say it out loud, I can't believe that's my grandfather. Like, I just am so incredibly lucky to have had him really almost my entire life. He died when he saw me graduate out of college. So I was able to have him in my life during, as a young adult. So I'm so lucky. So yes, it is a lot of pressure, Kathleen. It's a lot of pressure. I feel as though that he laid so much groundwork for us and created the opportunities that we have in front of us now. And so running for this seat, I kind of believe that I'm standing on his shoulders, and I know that he'd be very proud of the work that I've done and to kind of continue the legacy of our family. And so, it's all great work. So much of it was done at Harris County, which is ironic that I now, am running for Harris County judge, and just my experience through the county. I don't know if I should have mentioned earlier, but I was the one that opened up 2 of the dental healthcare centers in Harris County as a young dentist. And so I remember my grandfather visiting me and, just being so proud of the work that I was doing, following my dad's footsteps as well. And so that legacy is a big deal. I don't take it lightly. And I do believe that, through osmosis, I gained a lot of this. I heard conversations around the dinner table. He was such a fighter for people that just didn't have a voice. And I just believe that I'm continuing that legacy in the work that I'm doing.
It's in your DNA, Dr. Plummer.
Yes, it is. It is.
Your opponent in this runoff is a former Houston mayor. Anise Parker is also a woman of great experience with local governance. Would you talk to us about the differences between you and Ms. Parker that you think voters must urgently consider?
Yes. So it's a character difference, in my opinion. And when I say character, I don't believe that the experience that she has is definitely important and it's credible. She was a trailblazer in her own way, but it's dated experience. It was 10, 11, 12 years ago. Since she represented our county, or our city rather. A lot has changed. She's much older, and I'm not saying that necessarily age really matters, but in this particular situation where the average age of a Harris County resident is 37 years old, they want something way different than how we led previously. I'm the most progressive in this race, which means that I did not support the HSD takeover or the HSD bond. That is critical as the Harris County judge, because HISD is what they deliver, what they produce is our future workforce for Harris County. And so that is a very big deal. The fight that we've seen in our criminal justice system, Anise supported Kim Ogg and still aligns with a lot of Kim Ogg's beliefs. From a criminal justice perspective, that does not align. Our criminal justice system is struggling right now. It is overpopulated. We are spending $50 million plus sending out inmates to the county and the city, to different states, Mississippi, Louisiana specifically. That is a budget that I believe, is being wasteful. We need to look at our criminal justice system in a different way. In many of her tweets, she said that she, kind of related getting rid of ICE is like getting rid of the IRS, which means she did not believe that ICE should be managed in a way that it should. That is what she did 2018, 2019. And once again, her vision, her understanding of making these decisions early on and being able to be a visionary and forward thinking is not one of her strong suits, in my opinion, because what's happening now with ICE is a real problem, in the city of Houston. And so, she was the one that put forward the anti-feeding bill or ordinance, which means that anyone that fed our homeless population within the city of Houston was then fined up to $2,000. I remember when Mayor Turner actually executed that and gave tickets to organizations, amazing organizations like Food Not Bombs. And so her decisions that she made as a elected official during the time of her tenure, those decisions don't line up with where we are right now, which means that she doesn't understand where we are currently, and she doesn't understand where we need to go. And so having someone that is definitely progressive, more middle of the age in terms of I can relate to the more average age of the voter, still having aging parents, someone from the healthcare field, I really do believe that it brings a different level of experience. I honestly think that, we can't solve yesterday's problems or today's problems with yesterday's solutions. We have to deal with what we have in front of us, and we need someone that's a visionary, but still is collaborative enough and innovative enough to be able to bring the solutions that we need to Harris County.
This isn't one of my written questions, but my grandparents retired in Biloxi, Mississippi for the services of the Keesler Air Force Base. And my granddad used to watch the hurricanes come in on his cork board with his pens. And I feel that the Trump administration and the emergency response has been so lacking. We know that through reporting now that emergency calls to FEMA were not answered last summer during the floods. The hurricane season starts in a couple weeks, and you're going to be right at the center of some storms coming up. So would you speak to the fact that you need a county executive who can handle emergencies that will come without being able to rely on the federal government that we all pay taxes for to respond with Christy Nome out, somebody new in, someone who's talking about being teleported to Waffle House, being one of the members of the emergency response team. You'd want to laugh if you don't want to cry, but it's very worrisome to me. I've seen what's happened in terrible hurricanes, and it's only a matter of time.
Once again, we've got to go back to preparation. So during the time when Parker was the mayor, and it ran through the time that Turner was mayor, there was a vote in 2010 and 2018 to allocate 11.8 cents per $100 of your home to what we call a drainage fee or drainage tax. It was drainage fee. And that resource was supposed to go into a bucket, and that money was supposed to be spent to repair the fractured infrastructure that we have within the city of Houston. Well, during both tenures, that did not happen in the way that it was supposed to. And so fast forward now, 10 plus years, the city of Houston gets sued $415 million because we owe those resources back to the residents of the city of Houston. When that's under your purview, and you have the control, what if that money was spent appropriately? Would Harvey have looked the way that it did? It's a big question. We're never going to know for sure. But I will tell you, we've got hundreds of miles of infrastructure that has got to be repaired. We are now in the challenge right now where we're about to lose multi-millions of dollars that the government had given to us because we are not doing the infrastructure projects fast enough from the federal government. And so we have the resources. What we've done a very poor job is building the capacity that we need to get these jobs done. That is what I'm saying from a preparedness perspective. There are 34 cities within Harris County. There has got to be an overarching regional approach that we take to make sure that all of us are talking to each other and working together, not only to build and repair the infrastructure, but also look at how overdevelopment may be happening in some communities that cause the drainage to come to our communities. These are all preparatory. These are all things we can do on the front end to when a disaster comes, because as you mentioned, we know it's coming. And what we've seen is we don't know how it comes anymore. It's not just a storm all the time now, right? A hurricane, ice storms, wind storms, like we've seen all of it. And so it's not predictable. Climate change is real. And, we need to look at this from a different perspective. And so once we do all those things, we're going to need to have a leader that can look at procurement fairly, make sure that small businesses and mid-sized businesses have a part of the conversation economically so that we can get these shovels on the ground and get this repair done. We've got to work with the Army Corps of Engineers, start having a deeper conversation about building a third reservoir. I would like to implement what I call is a lily pad resiliency hubs, which are deployable hubs that will incorporate 4 very important factors when it comes to disaster preparedness. One is generation. It's always our lights going off that causes us challenges. Food and ice. We're always delivering those, right? When a storm is coming. No one ever knows who to call and who to file the insurance with. We don't know if it should go to FEMA or the state or their insurance company. So having that resources, there as well. And the final piece is the healthcare or medical. And so I want to create these deployable hubs that will go out and move within the first 72 hours, to ensure that when the cavalry is not coming yet, right? The first 72 hours that we've got to survive on our own, that people know that there's opportunities there. In my mind, that is future thinking. That is getting prepared before the storm comes. And I really do believe that that's going to be the kind of leader that we need. And the last piece of that I want to mention is that our current county judge and our current mayor don't get along really well. In my mind, that's a challenge, right? Because when you know a storm is coming and we have a press conference, you got to see all of your leaders on the front line. We've got to be standing side by side because that gives you confidence to know that we're not working in silos, that we're working together. And I'm really looking forward to that being that change for our county residents, because having separate press conferences is just not the way that I believe that we need to, we need to be the front facing support for our communities.
That's so important. Thank you for answering that question. It's something I'm deeply worried about, and I know that residents of Harris County are as well. So let's close off how we started. We are days away from early voting. What's your most urgent ask of our listeners?
So first, get a voting plan. We've known, and the research shows that if you have a plan to go vote and you write it down and you share it with your friends and family, you are going to more likely do it. So let's get that voting plan together. If you want to be a part of our campaign, we need volunteers. We are definitely the most progressive in this race, which means that larger donors don't donate to us. We don't get $50,000, $100,000 checks from folks. We're getting checks from people like you, $20, $25, people like you that really want to help us keep this going. So if you can make a small donation, we'll take it all day long. We do hire poll workers. We hire people on the ground. We actually, now these are seasonal employees, right? We're investing in contributing to the economic wealth of our families. And so your resources will be used to pay people at the polls, to share our vision and to moving forward. And the last thing is just remember, there is no weekend voting. Election day is the day after Memorial Day, which means everyone's going to be fat and happy after eating their barbecue and drinking those great beers and having all those great parties, on Monday. And then Tuesday is election day, which means the lines are going to be long because everyone's going to forget. So please, please, please make sure that you get out to vote. If you want to volunteer, we've got virtual phone banks. You could call from anywhere in the nation. So if you want to just jump in and hop onto a virtual phone bank with us, we do them every single, I think we're building it up now to almost every single night during the week. All of our information is on www.drletitiaplummer.com. And I'm sure, they're going to put that, our web address in the notes. And so you can hop onto our website and all of our events are happening there. And so, we really want to win this race. It's going to be won by very few votes, y'all. It's not going to be a landslide. It's going to be 100 votes. So I know you've heard before that every vote counts, but I'm telling you right now, your vote counts. It is literally can make a difference of getting the most progressive candidate to be able to run as your county executive, as the Harris County judge. So please get engaged and just help us get this win.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Plummer. We really appreciate your time.
No, thank you for having me. And once again, thank you for your endorsement. I do not take it lightly. And I am really just excited to be able to run this county judge, run as a county judge and be the next county judge for Harris County. Super excited.
Thank you, Dr. Plummer. Progress Texas amplifies progressive values, leaders, and actions. Through our no paywall pods and digital media, we reach millions of Texans monthly. And that's made possible by folks just like you who invest in independent, progressive media by Texans for Texans. Folks, we're getting ready for our 16th anniversary celebration in Dallas with drinks, light bites, and a fun review of the highlights of our successes over the last few years. No matter where you are in Texas, please consider sponsoring our June 16th event. Our live events are a major way we keep doing what we do, and by sponsoring, you're helping Progress Texas continue our important work during this crucial election year. Find a link in the show notes or at any time at progresstexas.org. Bye, y'all.